We live in such a social first world that if your company doesn't have that presence on organic social at this point, people aren't going to believe that you're even a real legitimate company.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Quickfire Marketing. I'm your host, E.T. Mac, and today's topic is how to see social media through a different lens. So I've got my own frame-wearing friend here, Shaley Thomas from Rev. Shaley, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your company.
Yeah, I do organic social media marketing. I'm a social media manager. Rev is a tech company. We do speech to text technology and all the things around the learnings of the human voice.
Perfect. So a couple of topics we've discussed beforehand that always pop up whenever we're thinking about B2B marketing is CEOs, organic social media. It's kind of like when you see someone doing a TikTok dance you've never seen in your life and you're like, am I hip anymore? I don't know. Do I need to do this? Do I need to learn it? So how do you tell your CEO that organic social is worth it and they should be creating a TikTok profile and doing the newest dances?
It's interesting because organic social can be really difficult to prove direct ROI. Your audience isn't always clicking directly to a landing page from organic social. What you're doing is you're building that brand awareness, you're building that loyalty. And we live in such a social first world that if your company doesn't have that presence on organic social at this point, people aren't going to believe that you're even a real legitimate company. Even if a company is just running paid media, so like ads, before I click into the ad, I click on the profile of that company and go see if their organic social is put together because I want to make sure it's legit before I buy. It's not always easy to track those metrics directly, but a lot of times when your organic social is in order, you'll see sales go up or you'll see traffic to the website starting to go up, even if it's not directly attributed to organic social. It's like, weird how these two things work together.
No, I 100% agree. On the sales side of things, even like just following up with people, if someone wants to do business with me or like interact with me or network with me and they don't have a social media account, I don't think they're a real person because there's so many bots and fake catfishy kind of scams out there that if I can't find you and kind of track a bit of your trend and your history through your LinkedIn or something, then I probably won't reply. So
Oh,
I get it.
100%. Even with like, you've got to think selling to newer generations as they like become audiences of companies, like they grew up online, they grew up on social. So it's becoming very necessary to have that presence.
That kind of like segues to my next thought. All these different social media platforms, they're like hot new brunch spots. Like everyone has to be at a certain brunch spot. We're doing chicken and waffles. We're doing something else. How do you know what platform you need to be on if you're a company?
Well, it comes down to two things, honestly. How big is your social team? Like, what can you
Mm-hmm.
actually manage? And where is your audience? Like, knowing your audience, having that audience research becomes really important because depending on your age group, they might be on Facebook or they're going to spend more time on Instagram. They might, prefer to talk about tech. They might not. These all are things that go into which platform you're picking. I would also say if you're like a one person social team, and you need to be on multiple platforms, pick platforms where you can cross post without a lot of effort. If you're making videos for TikTok and then you also need to tweet, those things don't translate well. All of a sudden, you're needing to like write a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
text versus just creating these videos, and that takes more time. So if you're a team of one, I don't know if that ROI is going to work out for you.
Couldn't you just take that TikTok video and put it on your X or put it on your LinkedIn? Wouldn't that work?
You could put it on your LinkedIn, but it's not necessarily going to perform well on something like Twitter, where it's a text-based platform. Trusting that your social media manager knows what performs really well on those platforms and where the algorithms are going so that they can tell you which content is going to perform on which platforms, because that will help inform those decisions of which platforms you're going to actually have success on.
Historically, for me, dealing with the social media manager is kind of like dealing with an alarm clock. Like they're constantly reminding you, like, you need to post more, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it just feels like a chore. If I'm just putting everything up all the time, if I just get it out, why does it matter on the performance?
That's another one of those things where it really does depend on the platform. Instagram actually just changed their algorithm in the last couple of months where it used to be that you needed to post 2 reels a day every day of the week. And now they're like, you only need 3 to 5 reels a week, actually. So that like significantly cuts down on the content that you're creating and putting out. Also, we're finding a shift in content where we're going from all these like highly produced videos and images and things being like really crispy and pretty, and it's becoming more lo-fi. It's like that low fidelity, like someone just took their iPhone and they went out and shot it, and it's like
Hmm.
very organic feeling and human feeling, and that's what's performing well on most platforms at this point. So there's like shifting tides on each platform and within each algorithm that you kind of have to be aware of.
How do we figure all this out? Like, are you constantly testing things? I'm walking through this, and I'm trying to figure out how to be hip. I'm trying to figure out how to be social and be on top of everything. What's like a good simple framework? How do I create a repeatable process? But if there's all these new nuances, like what are some regular stuff I can always stick to?
The social media manager community on LinkedIn is one where people love connecting with each other and talking about things that are going on with everything. So connect with your peers and other companies, and that alone will help you keep track of what's going on in the different worlds, especially if you're only posting to certain platforms, so you're only paying attention to certain platforms, but you still want to be informed about what's going on. Dive into your audience research first, though. Figure out when they're online, what countries they're in, what they've been reacting to historically, because that can inform where you head with your content. And then you can start testing out different types of creative and different types of copy that are like within your brand guidelines, obviously. You can start testing that out. And as your impressions grow, your engagement rate should also grow if you're doing it right. If it's not growing, well, maybe it doesn't work on organic, but then I like to toss it over to my paid media friends, and sometimes it works really well over there, even if it didn't work on organic, because it might have been too salesy for organic. It might have been a little bit too on the nose. So you kind of just have to week in and week out, like keep an eye on your content, see what's performing well, and adjust. Because social media is a living, breathing thing. No matter how much algorithm we talk about, it's still humans informing that algorithm, and they change on the daily. So you just kind of have to get your content out there and pay attention to what it's doing so that you can grow that.
How would you advise salespeople to interact on social media? Because sometimes they go for the close a little too soon, a little too late. Like, come off a little too spammy. Like, how should things go?
Just act like a person. It's one of those things where you don't always need to be selling in order to sell something, right? Organic social in of itself is that building awareness and brand and loyalty, and you can do that through just being yourself. Also, when they come back to needing whatever product you're attached to, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know this person that's attached to this product, and we have really great conversations, and they'll reach out to you, and that's when you can sell a little more organically. Build those connections without being in their face about it.
Yeah. I do find that it can get a little hard, right? Like if you're trying to reach out to a head of information security and you're like a salesperson, so you have a limited knowledge, and they're just posting about like this complex way they broke down some threats, and you're just like, neato,
Ask
you
questions.
know?
Be curious. Like if it's
Yeah.
it's people love telling you about what they do for work, right? It's their niche. So like just be curious, and that alone starts conversation. It's all about just that human element. There's so many different metrics within social. There's like follower count, there's engagement rate, there's impressions,
Yeah. There's
there's
like likes
shares,
on the
there's
left.
likes, there's like all these different things that people like to measure. There's no like one standard metric that you can truly use, I feel like, because you need to look at them all together. They tell a story. If
Mhm.
your follower count is going down, but your engagement rate is going up, it's probably because you're losing followers. So your ratio is different. I like to look at everything as a story versus just like one set metric.
All right. Shaylee, thank you so much for being on the pod with us. We're at time. You can find her and Rev on LinkedIn. We'll add links to that, and us wherever podcasts are found. Thanks for joining Quickfire Marketing. Toodaloo.
Is there anything we need to go back over? I feel like
Yeah.
I just like fumbled on some of that, but
I
That could
mean,
just
you came
be
off like an Atlanta mumble rapper, but I wasn't gonna say anything.
dope.